I think a minimum of 10 for me. I think that would average 2 points a game, which is always promotion form in what is a very tough run of fixtures based upon all of them coming in close proximity. But I think 10 or 11 would be brilliant. But I think we've got the capability of getting more. If we can do that, average those 2 points per game in those fixtures, I think then that gets some really tricky fixtures out the way and sets us up nicely then for the rest of the season. So welcome back to BCFC Royal Blue, and now we've just passed the halfway stage in the EFL League One campaign for Birmingham City, and the next 5 fixtures for Birmingham City are really going to determine, how Birmingham City progress this season. So in this video, myself and Matt are going to talk about the next 5 fixtures, give our opinions on the opposition, and then maybe give a few thoughts on what they think we'll do from a points point of view. So just for clarity, these are the 5 fixtures that we're talking about in this particular podcast. We're only talking about league fixtures here. We're not talking about the FA Cup or the EFL Trophy. So our next league fixture is on Saturday the 18th of January against Exeter City. That's at home at St.Andrews at Knighthead Park. Then on the 23rd, 5 days later, big one away to Wrexham. That's on a Thursday.
Yeah.
Then a few days later, 5 days later again, we're away to Huddersfield. Then we are at home to Rotherham on the 1st of February, and the last of our 5 fixtures we're going to look at is our away trip to Peterborough on the 8th of February. So, interesting set of fixtures there. I've labelled this as crunch time in the season.
Yeah, it's a big 5 games, isn't it? And, if we're just looking at league position here, Dad, who's in and around us, a lot of Blues fans will be looking at the Wrexham game and the Huddersfield game. No disrespect to the others, it's just a case of league position, because if you beat those around you, that's how you get promoted. They're kind of 6-point games, aren't they?
Yeah.
And Wrexham obviously being on the Thursday, Huddersfield being on the Tuesday. It's an extra thing for Blues having that, not fixture congestion, but games close together. And it's interesting because Blues tend to do well against the bigger teams, Wrexham's and Huddersfield. It's the Shrewsburys and the Northamptons. Again, not disrespectful here, but it's typical Blues, isn't it? As a Blues fan, you can relate to this, can't you, Blues fans? The big teams and the big games we do well in, the games we're expected to win, we sometimes drop points, don't we?
Yeah,
some big games here.
They are big, and it's interesting the way that the fixtures have, thrown out. The way the computer throws them out too. But I wouldn't panic, because at the end of the day, every team has to play everybody home and away throughout the season. It just happens to be that these 2 fixtures, but away to both Wrexham and to Huddersfield, are within 5 days of each other.
Exactly.
And also, don't forget, Blues fans as well. Wrexham, Huddersfield, Wycombe, and all the other teams, they're all going to play each other as well.
Exactly.
So they're all going to drop points as well. So and we'll come on to each of the individual teams just in a moment. But in my opinion, for the Wrexham and the Huddersfield game, they're both away. As long as we don't lose those games, we'll come on to that in a moment. I think that is going to be good for us.
Yeah. I think we have more than enough quality to win all these games. It's just a case of football doesn't work like that, does it? We have tight fixtures, we get injuries, all sorts happen. It's football.
Yeah,
it's football. So I have no doubt we have the quality, but we'll discuss our thoughts. You can't deny Wrexham's home record and all these things, but we'll get into that now. So first game, Dad, is Exeter. Do you want to do it like we do score prediction? So I'll start the first one, then you can start the second.
Yeah,
we'll
that's a good idea. Yeah.
So first game, as you say, in the league, next one up is against Exeter, and this is a team, again, we know quite well now. We've played them twice in the case of 2 weeks, pretty much, weren't it? We played them in the league and in the cup. And I quite appreciate and respect Exeter. They try and play football. They do try and pass the ball. They do try and hold on to possession. But sadly, when we saw them, Dad, their execution isn't quite there, is it? And, we have a really good fitness level. We have a really good high press. And we were forcing them into errors, weren't we? We scored a few of our goals off the back of their goalkeeper passes and them trying to play it from the back. We were causing them a few issues. So, they're not having a bad season, though. They're in 14th. But they are in hit and miss form, and we've just come off the back of the busy Christmas period. I'd like to remind everyone of their recent scores, and then we can go from there. I mean, the highlight was Exeter 4, Crawley 4.
Well, they were 4-1 down at half time at home. Exeter, and they came back to 4-4. So that was a cracking game.
And for the neutral, that would have been a cracker, wouldn't it? But so the recent form over the last 6 games, including the Christmas period, I'll go from the most recent game backwards. So Exeter 1, Bolton 2, Wycombe 2, Exeter 1. Then it was the 4-4 against Crawley. Exeter 3, Bristol Rovers 1, Burton 1, Exeter 2, Exeter 1, Barnsley 2. So again, quite hit and miss there, isn't it? Quite a difficult team to predict. But as a Blues team, Dad, as a Blues fan here, home side, we need to be looking at 3 points for this one.
Yeah, I mean, their form, they started the season well, didn't they? And they was up and around the playoffs for the early part of the season, but they've only won twice in the last 11. Those 2 games you referenced against beating Burton away and beating Bristol Rovers at home. Were the only 2 games they've won in the last 11. They've drawn a couple, but there've been a lot of losses in there as well. So I think they're form-wise, they would want it better. I know they've had injuries. I know that because we know that from when we played them in the league last time, that there was a few key players out. As far as their away form goes, they're sort of in the bottom 2/3 of the league. They haven't got a disastrous away form, but it's not brilliant either. So they've scored 13 points away on the road in 11 games. They're mid-table in the goals scored and goals conceded. So they've scored 28 goals in 24 games and conceded 31. And in the league, that's sort of mid-table in both as well. So I'm expecting, a game. I think the game will be different this time at St. Andrews because we're at home this time and we've played away both times so far. So I think we'll see a more defensive shape to Exeter this time round. I think we've played them so far twice, but both have been away. But I think that as we've seen when teams come to St. Andrews, particularly teams that are in form like this, I think they'll be defence first and try and catch us on the break. And it's going to be another case of us trying to break through the wall again. So I think this could be a frustrating game again for Blues, is that we need to find a way through.
But what might play into our hands, Dad, is Exeter don't tend to do the League One hoof, the League One Route 1. They do try and play football. Again, that might play into our hands a little bit. But I agree with you. I think they will come and park the bus, and it will be a case of, as a lot of our home games have been this season, bar maybe 1 or 2, how quickly can we break them down? That tends to be the theme, doesn't it? And then not get caught on the counter by a silly mistake or a long ball. I completely agree with you.
I mean, when we played them in the league, they had the best defence at that point. And their goalkeeper, Joe Whitworth, is really well thought of, wasn't it? I didn't think he was overly impressive against us, to be honest, when we played them. But he's a good goalkeeper. He's got their highest rating at the moment of for the league so far. Then Pierce Sweeney, a defender, and also Tristan Cramer. They're the 3 highest rated players.
Yeah.
So but they're all defenders, and I think that tells a story in itself as well. Their leading scorer at the moment is Melanik Ali with 5 goals, and then they've got Josh McGuinness with 3 goals. So they have got goals in the team, but they're not prolific.
Okay. Yeah, so we are looking at 3 points for that one, aren't we, being the home team?
Well, then we're looking at 3 points for all of them, but
especially
being
that
at
one.
home, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And that brings on nicely to Wrexham, Dad, away.
Yeah, I mean, you can't deny Wrexham's home record, can you? I mean, they're up there, aren't they? So they've got 38 points out of a possible 42 at home. But their away record is what's going to do them. They've got 13 points out of 11 games away. And I looked as well statistically. This surprised me when I found this out. They haven't beat anybody away higher than 16th, which is Rotherham. So
staggering, isn't it?
Yeah, it is staggering. They need to really improve their away form in order to be. I mean, you can't deny their home form. And this is why this is going to be a tough game for us, because at home they're very, very strong and they're used to winning. I'm not going to go through all their results because there's loads and loads of wins, but they've obviously beaten a lot of decent teams. They in their last game they edged Peterborough 1-0 away. They've got a habit of scoring late goals, haven't they, Wrexham?
Small margins as well. 1-0, 2 goals max.
I mean, Peterborough. It was the 87th minute. I think Stephen Fletcher scored for Wrexham to win that game. They lost 2-1 at Barnsley, which I predicted. They've beaten Wigan at home and they've beaten Blackpool at home. But if you look at their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 or 12 games, 8 of those have been at home.
Yeah,
I think it's just the way the fixtures have worked, in the league. So they've got a lot of away games to come, but they'll be wanting to beat us because obviously we beat them at St Andrews earlier in the season. Love the Wrexham fans. I really enjoyed the banter with them. We've got a lot of Wrexham fans that subscribe to our channel as well. They're always respectful with their comments, and looking forward to going down there. And I think, like I mentioned in the intro, because we've already beaten them, as long as we don't lose this game, I think that will be. I think we can win this. By the way, I think we've got the firepower to win this game. But as long as we don't lose, I think it'll be a better result for us than it will be for them.
Yeah, I mean, you can't deny their home form. I'm not going to repeat, but absolutely outstanding. 2.71 points per game average. I mean, they've only conceded 8 goals at home.
Yeah.
So it shows it's going to be a tough game. But I mean, it'd be nice for this one to be kept about the football, wouldn't it? Because we know that the Hollywood thing's going to come in, the NFL thing's going to come in, it's going to have that spectacle around it. And on one side, that is quite magical, because at St Andrews, we had David Beckham come in, it was a good atmosphere, it was a really good game of football. But I'd like it to be, I don't care about that stuff, if I'm honest. I just want this to be about the football.
I'll be glad when it's out of the way. Nothing to do with the football, by the way. I'm really looking forward to playing Wrexham. It's just the hype around the game. I just don't like it. I just want us to, we've already played them once, let's get this one out of the way, and let's both Wrexham and us get on with the rest of our seasons. And just leave us alone, But that's what I think this is a game that I think is one to look forward to for both teams.
But they're a very direct team. Wrexham again. We spoke about other teams on this podcast are happy to sit out of possession. They're happy for you to have the ball, and they pepper the box. Crosses, corners. They're very good at set pieces. Something to be aware of. And they're prone to scoring late goals as well. Just something to be wary of for Blues. Let's keep going now for that 90 plus 6 minutes, whatever it might be. And Dad, I have no doubt we have the firepower and the talent and the squad to win this game. But if we're looking logically at their home form, it's exceptional. I think a lot of Blues fans, if you're going with your head, not your heart, we want the win. We would take a draw here if it came to it. But we can win this game.
I think that's important that we don't lose the game. But even if we did, we don't want to lose any game. But even if we did, we're still in a great position. Their top scorer at the moment is Elliot Lee with 6 goals. Then they've got Stephen Fletcher with 5. He's the one that seems to be getting the late goals. Jack Marriott, who's injured, he's got 5 goals. Max Clegworth with 5 goals. Of course, they've got Paul Mullin and other players like that. Assists, Ryan Bennett will have to watch. He's got 7 assists so far. And James McLean, he's got 4 assists. So a definite threat and an interesting game. But like you said, you're going to get these games throughout the season when you're playing the teams in and around you, and this is one I think that both sets of fans will be really looking forward to.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that brings on to Huddersfield, Dad, and I'll get the ball rolling on this one. So they had an absolutely massive game a couple of nights ago, beating Wickham away. Really good result for them. I think that's kept them in contention of that automatic space because that was a 6-pointer. Took 3 off Wickham, gave 3 to them. And just to show how good they've been in recent form and the second half of the first part of the season, last time they lost a game was at St.Andrews on the 1st of October.
I know.
That's really to not lose over that period, especially with the Christmas period, with that amount of games coming in. That's pretty impressive.
I think you've got to give Michael Duff a lot of credit, as their manager, because I think the Huddersfield fans would agree that, it's not the most exciting Huddersfield team that they've probably ever seen in their lives. They know, looking at social media, they're crying out for a striker. But he's done so well with them to keep them on that run. I mean, they're not playing spectacular football, but they're getting the job done.
Drawing,
they're getting the job done. Yeah. So I think this is going to be quite an untidy game. I think that we are at their place, so again the onus is going to be on them.
Expecting a scrap?
Yeah, I think so. I'm expecting a real scrap in this game. Yeah, because that's what they do. Huddersfield, you watch the game. I mean, I watched the Wickham game actually when they won 1-0. They scored in the 15th minute. Good goal, Herbie Kane. Yeah,
it was a good goal, but a pretty rubbish game of football.
Oh, the game was terrible, but that's partly because Huddersfield frustrated Wickham.
Yeah.
And that's my point. Exactly the point I'm making is that if they get their noses ahead, they're a nasty team to try and break down because they just fight for everything, and that's what Michael Duff has done to this team. You add 1 or 2 players to that team, they're going to be very, very good, Huddersfield.
Yeah.
At the moment, they don't look the most excited. But of course, the January window's open at the moment, so it'll be interesting to see if they bring anybody in. But overall, I'd say the last time they lost was on, as you said, 1st of October against us.
Mad, isn't it?
And they've had some good wins in there. I think they've beaten Stockport. They've beaten Wickham, but they have had some disappointing ones as well. So if you look at their home form, they do 2-2 with Lincoln, and Lincoln aren't in great form at the moment. They've 1-1 with Burton, and they actually equalised really late, Huddersfield did. Burton were 1-0 up for a long time, although Huddersfield did batter them. I looked at the highlights of that. And then they drew 0-0 at home to Rotherham. So as much as they're doing really well, I think that they would look at those particular games. I think we've considerably dropped some points here.
But as you said, though, Dad, they beat Wickham away, they beat Stockport, and they beat Mansfield on their own turf as well. They're good wins, they are, and they're currently sitting in 4th. Their form is good, and not to be underestimated, Huddersfield. I mean, they got off to a good start to the season. They won their first 3, and then they lost 5 out of their next 6.
Yeah.
And then since then, that last game was at St.Andrews against Blues. They went on a bit of I wouldn't say a tear, but very good form. But I guess what will be on a lot of Blues fans' mind, it's on my mind as well, Dad. We play Wrexham on the Thursday, and then we've got them on the Tuesday. 5-day break.
Yes, 5 days.
You go, Blues tend to do a little bit better, don't we, with the week's gap in between games. But no, it's one of those things. Again, we have the quality to win this. I'm not worried about this game. My head tells me that we'll win it. But my heart, again, like the Wrexham theory, logically, with the way the league is, with their form, I would take a point here as well.
Yeah, me too. As I say, I think we can win this game. But like you say, as long as we don't lose it, because we have beaten both Wrexham and Huddersfield already. So if we take at least 4 points off both those 2 teams against, they're going to be in or around us. That's good. Just a few players to watch out for them. Their top-rated player is Ben Wiles, who's a midfielder. He's actually their top scorer as well with 6 goals. Callum Marshall has got 6 goals. Josh Caroma, I like Josh Caroma. I know he has sort of mixed reviews sometimes.
I like him. He had a poor game against Wickham, but he's a good player.
Yeah, he's got 5 goals. Matthew Pearson's got 4. Their top assist is Herbie Kane with 4 and Ben Wiles with 4. So Ben Wiles seems to be the main sort of threat. So there's decent players in this team. It's going to be a tough game. Every time we play Huddersfield, there's always something on it. 'Cause last season
What do you
we
mean? Oh, right.
Last season we
The
went
stakes
there,
are high.
We drew 1-1. We were 1-0 up at half time,
I
weren't we?
remember.
And they equalised really early in the
Killer.
second half. Yeah. So I think this is going to be another game where I think they're going to come at us. I think they're going to really be up for this. And all teams are up for it. It's nothing new, is it? If we have away fans saying, "Oh, we're really going to be up for this." Well, so what? So's every other team,
But the reason why I'm confident, quietly confident about the Wrexham and the Huddersfield game is because these are the kind of games that we step up in. We do well against these sorts of teams, and it wouldn't be surprised. Again, we'll come to our points in a minute, Dad. It wouldn't be surprised if we beat Wrexham or Huddersfield and we go and lose to Rotherham or Peterborough or something. That would be the Blues way, wouldn't it? But I've no doubt we have the quality to win this game as well.
Yeah, I think so as
So
well.
Rotherham, Dad, over to you to start this one.
Yeah, I think that Rotherham, they were highly tipped to do very well this season, weren't they? And I think they would openly admit that they're having a really, really poor season. I mean, as things stand currently, they are. I think I'm not without counting. They're around about 14th or 15th in the table.
16th.
16th, okay. They don't score many goals. They've scored 21 goals in 23 games, which is the fourth best, well, equal third worst with Wigan. So they don't score many goals. Defensively, they're not bad. They got the eighth best defence with 23 goals. So, but we saw them, didn't we, when we played them? We dominated them, and particularly in the first half. It was outstanding. We were
the best controlled performance I've seen this season so far. That first half at Rotherham.
Yeah, but one key thing about that game is that Johnson Clark-Harris was injured against us. He's come back and their form has started to change a little bit. He's still their top scorer, even though he's missed all those goals with games with 6 goals. Sam Ndombe has got 4 goals. But if you look at their current form, it's not actually brilliant. In the last 5 games, they've only won one. They beat Lincoln away. But they lost away to Mansfield. They lost at home to Wigan. They drew 1-1 with Stockport, beat Lincoln 1-0 away, and then drew 0-0 at Huddersfield. It's fairly inconsistent there because there's some good results in there. Some of the draws are very good against decent teams, but they're just inconsistent, aren't they? But again, as we are the home team here, very similar to all of the games we've played so far, I expect them to become. A tough nut to crack.
Do you remember in the summer, Dad, when Rotherham were signing all those players and Blues supporters were losing their mind, going, "We need to start signing players." And what really, really hit it home for me was when we played them at their stadium. It was completely one-sided because we came down together. You'd think we would be relatively on the same page or at the same level. We absolutely dominated that. We were in complete control. Fair enough, the second half was a little bit less, but I felt like we took that foot off the gas a little bit, to be honest. I mean,
we did.
Complete control in that game, and that was the moment where I went, we're going to be serious this season. I mean, Rotherham, I think, have, as you said, arguably been the team that haven't lived up to the expectations everyone thought, and they're the classic yo-yo League One to Championship team. They've done it over the last sort of seven seasons, really. But yeah, really not living up to it. And their big problem's goals. You've highlighted that the striker who's came back and started scoring, Johnson Clark-Harris, good player. Yeah. But up until he's come back, Dad, they've 0.91 goals per game. That is really poor. Yeah. You need to start putting more goals in than that. And then you say mixed bag of recent form: 2 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws. Quite a hard team to predict. But again, being the home team, need to be looking at 3 points for this one for me.
Yeah, I think so as well. And that brings us on then to the final fixture, Matt, of the 5 that we're looking at today, and that's away to Peterborough United.
Yeah, I mean, they're in terrible form. Yeah. They're in actual. If you look at the table, they're in trouble. They're only 4 points or 6 points away from the actual drop or the relegation spaces, I think.
5 points.
5 points.
So as things stand, they're 6th bottom at the moment. Yeah. Peterborough United 6th bottom with 25 points from 24 games. Level on points with Bristol Rovers, who are just below them. Same game, same points. And then there's a 5-point gap to that final relegation place, which is currently occupied by Crawley. I mean, with 20 points.
We just spoke about Rotherham, Dad, being the underachievers. Peterborough have got to be up there as well in terms of surprise, because I thought Peterborough might have nabbed a playoff space or if not been in and around.
Yeah, me too.
And the fact that they're fighting relegation now is really bad. I mean, 2 games. They've only won 2 games in their last 10 matches.
And those 2 games were both against home to Crawley and at home to Cambridge.
Yeah, exactly. And their last 6 games, they've won 1, drew 1, and 4 losses. And 2 particular bad results back to back. Dad, they lost to Northampton and Burton on back-to-back weekends. I mean, if that doesn't cry now that you're in I wouldn't quite say a relegation battle. I think Peterborough do have the quality to get themselves out of this, but they have been injury struck, haven't they? And we've seen it with teams before when that injury table stacks up.
Yeah, I don't think you can't underestimate that. And I think we've spoken about this on previous podcasts, isn't it? At this level, some of the squads aren't very big, and if you lose key players, this is where you're going to struggle. And
Yeah.
Peterborough have been dogged by injury. I mean, the big one is Poku, isn't it?
It is, yeah. He's out till March.
He's out too much, but he's still their top scorer. He's got 10 goals, and obviously he's out. You got Malik Mothersill, who I really like, by the way.
him.
He's got 7 goals. Then you got Joe Randall, 5, and a big favourite of mine who's been linked to Cardiff is Ricky J. Jones.
Yeah, you like him, don't you?
Like him, very, very pacey. Really caused us a lot of problems when they went 2-0 up at St Andrews. Remember?
Yeah, remember?
Is he the one that scored the goal, or was it Mothersill that pressurised Bailey Peacock Farrell?
Ricky J. Jones did
Ricky
the
J.
Bailey,
Jones, yeah.
the Bailey Peacock Farrell.
And I really like him. I think there's a possibility that Peterborough will lose him, because this is what Peterborough do. They identify these gems, sell them on, don't they? And I think him, Mothersill, and Poku are the ones.
They're
that
classy, aren't they?
Yeah.
They sold Burrows in the summer for like $5 million or something. You know, they're really good at getting really good talent.
Did he go to Sheffield United or something like that?
He's a quality player. And that's what Peterborough do. They have such a good either academy system. I don't know whether these players are coming through, or they've just got the scouts who just pick out these gems, don't they? I mean, Ivan Toney's from Peterborough. Jimmy Bullard, I think, came from.
I think Jack
Peterborough.
Marriott was at Peterborough as well, and
really good talent that's came through that club. But they're so. Like either end of the scale, so they've got no problem scoring goals. They average 1.71 goals per game, which
they're
is
joint second.
which is excellent.
Believe it or not, they scored the same amount of goals as us.
Yeah,
they scored 41 goals. They scored, so they're joint second in the table.
But let's talk about their goals conceded.
Well, the bottom.
Exactly.
But the bottom, they've conceded 46 goals in 24 games, which is 2 worse than Shrewsbury, Cambridge, 2 worse than Shrewsbury, and 3 worse than Cambridge and Crawley. So clearly their problem is at the back as well. They conceded 3 again. They were 2-0 up against us, looking really, really good. And then we obviously scored 3 goals, won the game 3-2. So clearly their problem is obvious, isn't it? It's not that they can't score goals, it's that they can't stop them going in.
I mean, their league position would say they're in a relegation battle, but I still think Peterborough have the quality to claw themselves out of this.
It depends.
If their recent form continues.
And also what happens in the January
trouble.
window, if Ricky J. Jones goes and somebody comes in like for Mothersill, I think Poku, because he's injured, he's going to be safe. But then if they can't rely on him until March, that's like 2/3 of the season gone by the time he comes back. So they could be in trouble, which is a surprise to everybody. But I think that, there is good quality in that side, and even though we are playing them, and they're still a dangerous team, and they're going to be up for it. And
Home team as well.
Yeah, so I think again another tough game, but like all of them, I think that we need to obviously just keep focused on what we're doing, and if we do that, we'll have enough to win that game as well.
You watch, Dad. We always play teams in my typical Blues. We always play teams when they're back on the up, don't they? I bet Peterborough swing it round in 4 games to get that positive momentum
or when they
back.
change manager.
They're
the change manager, or
have an uptake in form, don't they?
Just a question then to finish the podcast then, Matt. So out of those 5 fixtures, and maybe you could answer this in the comments below as well, viewers, what do you think could be a good points haul from these 5 fixtures?
So I'm going to go for 11. I think 3 wins and 2 draws would be really good. I genuinely think we have the quality to win all of them. I do think we could come out with 15, but if we're going to use logic here and take the emotion away, I think 11 points is a good points return. And if I'm going to be honest, that comes off the back of a point at Wrexham and a point at Huddersfield and 3 wins on the other. So I'd be happy with 11.
Yeah, I think a minimum of 10 for me. I think that would average 2 points a game, which is always promotion form in what is a very tough run of fixtures based upon all of them coming in close proximity. But I think 10 or 11 would be brilliant. But I think we've got the capability of getting more. If we can do that, average those 2 points per game in those fixtures, I think then that gets some really tricky fixtures out the way and sets us up nicely then for the rest of the season. But
agreed.
I think we need to be really focused on these 5 fixtures, get a good points return, and I think that's going to be fine. But even if we don't have a fantastic points haul, you don't forget, Blues, don't panic. No. We've got a good team. We all these teams have got to play each other as well, so they're going to drop points as well. So let's put it into perspective. We think we're capable of getting a good points haul, but I think that 10 or 11 points, and you think 11 would be a good one. We'd love to know what you think, Blues fans. Put your comments below. Let us know what you think about these 5 fixtures and what your expectations are for them. If you're a fan of any of the 5 teams that we've featured in this video, I'd love to hear your comments as well. So please let us know what you think about your team, how you think you'll get on against us, and maybe what your expectations are for your season as well. Add a comment below. Me and Matt are always happy to read and respond to comments from fans from other teams as well. If you did like this podcast, as always, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't checked us out on our social media channels already, pop along to our X page and our Instagram page. And also, if you like to watch or listen to your podcast on Spotify, you find us on there as well now. And you'll see the handles appearing for all of these channels on the screen right now. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already and you'd like to do so, press that big red subscribe button. And if you want notifications of when we put a new podcast out, then press the little bell icon next to the subscribe button, and that'll allow you to get these notifications when we put these podcasts out. As always, we hope you've enjoyed the podcast, and myself and Matt will see you on the next one, all about Birmingham City.